Shalom. We'll get started here in just a few moments.
And indeed, the Lord is coming with terror. Yahushua is coming back. He's coming with terror. Let's read it. Isaiah 66 and 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire. What's his name? Yahushua. Yahushua is coming. For behold, the Lord will come with fire. And where's that fire going to come from? It's going to come from them chariots and the missiles, the nuclear missiles. The nuclear missiles is part of that fire. This is where you get the term the lake of fire that all these morons in these so-called churches hear about and talk about, but cannot fully explain what that means, the lake of fire. So many missiles are going to hit this place called America, along with those chariots, and it's going to turn this place into a lake of fire. That's what it means, the lake of fire. To get an idea of what that's going to be like, all you have to do is watch two movies. Watch the movie called War of the Worlds, which gives you an illustration of what it's going to be like. Watch the 1951, or is it 52 edition? And then watch the one made back in 2005 with Tom Cruise, War of the Worlds. But it's not going to be little green men from Mars. Oh no. It's going to be Yahushua and the angels. Yahushua is coming. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind. Those are the so-called UFOs, which you call them UFOs, but they're the chariots of Israel. With his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. Yahushua is coming. So you have every reason to be afraid. You have every reason to be afraid. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. That's why I love the scriptures, because it's so powerful and direct. It's so impactful. It says what needs to be said.
Behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto my power, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Bashim Hakodash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father. His true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh. In his son's name, who the world is called Jesus Christ, real name in Hebrew is Yahushua. Also giving praises, honor, and glory to the Yahweh Hakodash, the Holy Spirit, which is the force and entity that makes this edification possible. I want to say shalom to our sincere heart of Akim Wakwat, that's your brothers and sisters, make your bodies a living sacrifice on a daily basis in this wicked and adulterous generation. Also want to give double honors to my beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and who rule well. And I'm the brother Osmo Wath here from Great Millstone, Dallas Camp, coming back this morning through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah to do another lesson. And the Lord's will, this lesson be found edifying unto the elect of the nation of Israel, as well as glorifying unto the names of my power, Yahweh Shema Shah. Yeah, and I want to get into the topic at hand. As you can read the title of this lesson, it says Esau is all over the place. And I put in parentheses, $2,000 stimulus checks, and the government, reopening, even though it hasn't officially, reopened yet. It still has to pass through the House and, ultimately, Trump to sign off on it. This is what, they're projecting to happen, as they have enough Democrats now to pretty much vote in favor of what the the Republicans want, and once that happens, then they'll say that it can possibly reopen. But nonetheless, as the title reads, Esau's all over the place, man. Ultimately, because prophecy has him cornered. All right, prophecy has Esau cornered, and ultimately, this also serves as just more propaganda and confusion. People that don't know, what to believe. They're over here, they're over there. Totally discombobulated, man. Okay, and this is how the devil gets down. Let's get this in 2 Corinthians 2. 2 Corinthians 2 and 11, it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And one of his main devices is what? His propaganda, manipulation, control. You see, and that brings him more power. You see, and with him talking about Trump talking about, giving everybody a $2,000 stimulus check, they'll be like, oh shit, well this is, this ain't so bad after all, you know. And once again, man, this is, you're gonna have a lot of Jake eating this shit up, man. But that's all good. Scripture speaks about they're gonna cry peace and safety. See, people think that they're safe now. Okay, man, the government's back open. Oh man, that was a close one. Oh man, then we getting stimulus checks on top of that. And I got some info here on the chat, because really, they got what they wanted out of this shutdown. And like we stated, a few days, well, really the first started on the first day, and a few days after, the government shut down, which, mind you, remember the government shut down on the same day of the Day of Atonement, our Day of Atonement, which is highly spiritual, but nonetheless, they got what they wanted out of this, because I remember playing a video in one of the lessons I had did, and with Trump saying, with this government shutdown, he said the Democrats, they handed this to us on a silver platter. And what he was speaking about is basically, them being able to have leeway and justification to purge particular, jobs, federal jobs, that is, permanently, not furloughed workers, but permanently, erase it. Because a lot of people, they were so focused on the furloughed workers, but a lot of people been getting, their positions completely, removed, federally, that is. And like I said, I got some info here in the chat that we're going to get into here in a second, going into particular departments, Department of the Treasury, Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, and how that all ties in to basically more tyranny, more control. So they got what they wanted out of this, so mission accomplished. We knew that they're going to open it back up in the process of time, and the government doesn't have to be shut down in order for prophecy, okay, to to prevail. Let's get this in 2 Peter 1. 2 Peter chapter 1 and 19. One of my favorite verses. It says, we have also a more sure word of prophecy. That's right, man. We have a more sure word of prophecy. Okay, we're sure about these things. America's still going to be destroyed. The economy's still going to collapse. Things are still going digital. Okay, too much has been said, done. Too much money and time has been invested. Okay, in World War III, in the MOTB, in that charagma. Okay, too much has been, said and done. Just for Esau. Okay, well, this, Esau don't run shit, man. This is Yahweh Shemal Shah's program, and he can claim peace all he wants, but there ain't no peace coming. Why? Because that's not what prophecy says, and we're sure about that. This is what keeps us in a stable, frame of mind. Unlike these people out here in the world. Mainly speaking about you, Jakes. The so-called white man, he has leeway over your mind. He has leeway over your thoughts. You believe in this one day and the next day you believe that, all based off his propaganda and his news. You see, it says we have also a more sure word of prophecy, whereunto you do well that you take heed. So you do well unto yourself if you take heed to these prophecies, man. Be occupied in prophecies, as unto a light that shineth in a dark place. And where's that dark place? Right here. We're in this dark place, man. America. His whole world in general, okay, but especially right here in Babylon the Great. This place is a hub of confusion, hence the name, okay, Babylon, okay, means confusion with mixing. Everybody, you're all mixed up in your thoughts, you don't know what to believe, you're confused. But see, we have a light that shineth in this dark place, man, which is this truth. These prophecies, it says, until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts. Let's get this here in the book of Isaiah, and we're gonna get into an article and a video as well. Before we get this, I want to go ahead and play this video. This is off of KTLA5 on YouTube. It says U.S. Senate votes on ending the government shutdown. Fair use, fair use. I do not own the rights to this video. This is for educational purposes only.
Breaking news tonight, the U.S. Senate takes a key first step toward reopening the government. Hello, everybody. Welcome to News at 11. I'm Rick Chambers.
And I'm Corrine Winter. A group of Democrats joined Republicans to advance a measure that would end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history.
The vote came during a rare Sunday session up there on Capitol Hill. The spending agreement would fund the government through the end of January. And while the deal includes funding for SNAP and WIC benefits, many Democrats are angry because the spending plan does not extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies that Americans depend on for their health care.
But
yeah, so you're still going to be screwed. And once again, this is just funding, to last you up until, January, for SNAP and whatnot. And it's possible. It's not even guaranteed right now. This is just, hearsay and based off of speculation, but, once again, even if it, does reopen, which is looking like it, it will, it's just so many, it's just a snowball effect of so many things that have, accumulated, over the past few weeks, months, and years and decades to where like we're already at the point of no return. 2nd Ezra 16th chapter. Let's get this real quick and we'll go back to this video. All right. And your healthcare subsidies, next year, you're really going to start to feel the effect of it. Your healthcare premiums, are projected to spike at least 140%. Can you imagine that? Not 100%. Hell, not 50%, not 75, not 100, but at least 140%, man. And people are really struggling. So once again, even if the government does reopen, this shit is still circling the drain. Thousands of people are still losing jobs, day by day. All these major corporations projecting, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of layoffs next year, So that $2,000 stimulus check, that's a slap in the face because he knows, man, it's about to be some shit, man. But anyway, let me get this real quick. Here we go. 2nd Ezra 16 and 14, it says, start at verse 8, 2nd Ezra 16 and 8. The mighty Lord, Yahweh Bashemawashai, sendeth the plagues. And who is he that can drive them away? It ain't Trump. Trump can't drive these plagues away. Okay, the elites can't drive these plagues away. You see? The Lord sent these plagues, man. Let's skip down here to verse 14. Behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again. So they ain't going nowhere. You could try to charm them away, enchant them away. Okay. Go to your prognosticators and your soothsayers and, just like Pharaoh was doing. Every time the Lord sent the plague, Pharaoh, he'll have his wise men, his magicians to try to, chant those things away. But it got to the point to where, they had to admit, like, man, now this is the finger of the Lord right here. And Yahweh Bashemah Shai, he's about to do something so big up on this place to where, hey, I'm gonna get that in Isaiah 47 here in a second, but he says you can't charm your way out of this. And he was speaking to the virgin daughter of Babylon, Esau, man. So it says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. See? So they're going to accomplish this. They're going to accomplish their purposes, the plagues that is. Okay. And ultimately the purpose is to destroy you people, man. And to destroy the foundations of Babylon the Great forever. And it's going to end with thermonuclear destruction. Thus saith Yahweh Bashemah Shai. And we are sure about that because we have a more sure word of prophecy. So to hell with you and your little government. Okay, we're going to reopen it back up. And give you $2,000 stimulus checks. Okay, sounds cute, man. But this place still gonna be fucking destroyed, bro. Point blank, period. You know? And these people still out here hurting through, and they're gonna continue to be through. Okay, 2 Ezra 8 and 50. For many great misery shall be done to them in a latter time, because they walked in great pride. And these plagues ain't going nowhere.
There are still significant hurdles to overcome. Lindsay Pena joins us live now from the KTLA News Center with tonight's major developments. Hi, Lindsay.
Korea and Rick, the Senate will have to go through a series of procedures before the bill officially passes. Then it'll have to go to the House of Representatives. Members are currently out of town, and it's unclear exactly when a vote will be held, but many are optimistic this is the beginning of the end.
The motion upon reconsideration is agreed to.
Sunday night's Senate vote signaling the longest government shutdown in U.S. history is one step closer to being over.
Today, the Senate voted to start reopening the government.
After weeks without progress, the breakthrough came after a group of 8 Senate Democrats reached a deal with Senate GOP leaders and the White House.
I joined this group to make sure that we could get important protections for federal employees.
They agreed to vote to reopen the government, provided there be a future vote on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies, the major sticking point between the two parties right now. The deal would include a brief stopgap measure to fund the government until January and fund SNAP and other benefits for the entire fiscal year. The legislation also reverses mass firings of federal workers during the government shutdown. After another Senate vote to pass the bill, it will move on to the House for yet another vote. Already, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries saying that he and other House Democrats will oppose the legislation. But Republicans only need a simple majority, which they have.
Republicans can actually vote for this and put it on through without Democratic support in the House. The Senate was the hang-up, because in the Senate, there had to be a 60-vote margin, not a 51-vote margin, because of filibuster.
While Senate Majority Leader John Thune has agreed to hold a vote on an extension of Affordable Care Act tax credits, there's no guarantee it would pass.
Totally hoping that their trust will be justified, because Republicans are not enthusiastic about voting for those subsidies.
Until a bill is signed by the president, SNAP benefits remain in legal limbo, with some states suing to force the federal government to fund the program. The Supreme Court issued a ruling allowing the Trump administration to continue withholding money, but if the current deal is approved, all of the back and forth could be over.
These legal cases largely go away. There are still some questions as to whether or not the federal government would follow through with essentially threats to say to the states that they either need to give back some of the money that was funded over the weekend and or pay penalties.
Now, if this bill continues to move forward, it'll still take several days for the government to actually reopen and funding to start flowing again. That's the latest from the News Center. Lindsay Pena.
All right. So, yeah. So that's the latest on that. Let me go here to Isaiah 44. And we'll start right here around 24. Isaiah 44 and 24. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashma'ushah, thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I'm the Lord, Yahweh Bashma'ushah, that maketh all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, that spreadeth abroad the earth by myself." Right? The Lord is reminding you who created this, okay, and whose show this is, man, whose earth this is, whose universe this is. Esau, he don't run shit, man. Okay? He's just simply a tool that's being used by Yahweh Bashmal Shah. Verse 25, "That frustrateth the tokens of the liars and maketh diviners mad." Once again, like the title of the lesson says, Esau's all over the place. Why? Because prophecy has him frustrated. Esau's frustrated, man. This is why he's all over the place. He's here today, over there tomorrow. You know, he's cornered. Says that frustrated the tokens of the liars, and he's a liar, man. See, and maketh diviners mad, that turneth wise men backward, and maketh their knowledge foolish, that confirmeth the word of his servant, and performeth the counsel of his messengers. See, so the Lord is on our side, man. This is what he's going to perform, the counsel of his messengers. Okay, prophecy. See, America's not going to be made great again. never was great. This place ain't gonna be built back up, bro. Malachi 1. You know, Esau said that we shall return and build, but the Lord says, I'm going to throw down and destroy. It says that confirmeth the word of his servant and performeth the counsel of his messengers. And we see the Lord doing that. He's performing and confirming the word of his servants, man. Everything starting with our beloved apostles, you know, that's been, you know, they've been teaching for all these decades. Everything that they've been speaking about through the Spirit is all coming to pass. It's being confirmed. Says that say up to Jerusalem, and mind you, we're people before we're placed. Thou shalt be inhabited, and the cities of Judah you shall be built, and I will raise up the decayed places thereof. See, that's who and what the Lord is raising up. Okay, it's Jerusalem. All right, starting with the elect of the nation of Israel. Let's go here real quick to Isaiah 47. Isaiah chapter 47 in the NLT. Whole chapter is a banger. And we're seeing this chapter play out as well. Look at the title, prediction. I don't really like that word prediction. Prophecy of Babylon's fall. See, it's prophecy, and we have a more sure word of prophecy. We might as well read verse 1. This is the NLT. It says, come down, virgin daughter of Babylon, and sit in the dust. And according to prophecy, who's equated, okay, as the virgin daughter of Babylon? Esau, Psalms 137. See? And sitting in the dust means, okay, sitting in this low position, in a state of confusion, derision. For your days of sitting on the throne have ended, O daughter of Babylon. Never again will you be the lovely princess, tender and delicate. Let's skip down here. I want to get straight to the point because, like I said, there's some info here on the chat I want to read to you. But going down here to verse 8, it says, listen to this, you pleasure-loving kingdom. And that's America, living deliciously, as it speaks about in Revelation 18. You know, listen to this, you pleasure-loving kingdom, living at ease and feeling secure. See, and people feel secure in this place, especially our people, man. You know, oh, well, he said he's going to give us a stimulus check for $2,000. You know, America ain't that bad after all. You know, it was just last week you was scared as hell, you know, stealing shit out the grocery stores because your SNAP was cut off, you know. But see, this is how he gets leverage on you, man. And that's why it's, bro, that's just like Elder Pastor Horace said, man. Jake, they're gonna be the first ones to get that chip, you know, because they've been enchanted by, okay, the so-called white man's, you know, dainties, his dainty meats, as scripture speaks about in Proverbs, the 23rd chapter. You know, so him giving you little crumbs, you know, stimulus check, and, you know, playing up on your emotions, manipulating you, the government shut down, now it's reopened, you know, it creates a high level of dependency upon him. You know, when you don't have anything or anyone else to cling onto, you know. So it says, you say, I'm the only one and there is no other. I will never be a widow or lose my children. Verse 9 in the NLT. Well, both these things will come upon you in a moment, right? So Esau, he can say everything he wants. Okay, it's the golden age, fourth industrial revolution, all this stuff, right? Well, the conclusion of the matter, the Lord says, well, so basically this is the point of the matter. Both of these things will come upon you in a moment. Widowhood and loss of children, meaning great death. Yes, these calamities will come upon you despite all your witchcraft and magic. See? And there's a lot of witchcraft and enchantments going on, man. And Trump, he's a witch. All right. This whole deal, you know, MAGA, you know, you look at it. Let me see something real quick. Give me 1 second. I think I had some info, you know, which has been brought out, you know, before. Let me see. I had to find it, but yeah, that whole deal with MAGA, and stuff, man. That's Maga or Magus. That's a high level witch, in the Church of Satan. So this is all witchcraft and sorcery that's going on, and they're trying to charm these evils and tribulations and plagues and scourges of amendments away, just like Pharaoh did. So he says, yes, these calamities will come upon you despite all your witchcraft and magic. You felt secure in your wickedness. No one sees me, you said, but your wisdom and knowledge have led you astray. And you said, I am the only one, and there is no other. So disaster will overtake you, and you won't be able to charm it away. See, and they're trying to charm it away, through the pseudoscience, okay, with their digitalization of everything, trying to reset the economy, wipe away their debts, declare peace to all these other nations when there is no peace. You see, can't charm it away, man. It says calamity will fall upon you, and you won't be able to buy your way out. A catastrophe will strike you suddenly, one for which you are not prepared. And man, I believe through the Spirit, I know through the Spirit, as well as you, Akim and Akwath as well. Hey, the Lord's about to do something big upon this place that that they're not ready for, bro. It's going to be something, man. I don't know what exactly, but like we reading right here, the Lord says a catastrophe will strike you suddenly, one for which you are not prepared. See, because a lot of these things Esau's been doing. Esau's been manipulating and doing a lot of these things, false flag events and things of such, But just like, during the time of, as we quoted earlier, during the time of Egypt, ancient Egypt, there's a point to when the Lord, he started to do particular plagues to where, Pharaoh's magicians, they were like, hold up, this the finger of the Lord right here. Let me see if I can get that. I think it's Exodus 8. Let me see. I'm typing finger God. Yeah, Exodus 8. We'll start right here, verse 8, verse 16. It says, and the Lord Yahweh Bashmashah said unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast, and all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. Can you imagine that? Just lice everywhere, man. And all these plagues was a major blow upon the economy of Egypt, and also the Lord, mocking, Egypt's gods, So he was fucking up Egypt, man, and the inhabitants thereof. Verse 18, and the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice. See, so they're trying to enchant and charm them away, showing the people, well, look, we could do this too, But check this out. It says, and the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. Then the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of the Most High. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord Yahweh had said. See, so it got to a point to where, hey, the magicians, they couldn't imitate it no more. They couldn't try to charm it away and, downplay it, desensitize the Lord's judgments. No, it got to a point where like, nah, man, this is Yahweh right here. See? So let's go back here to Isaiah 47. That's what's going to come up on Babylon the Great. It's going to get to a point where you people going to know, hold up, nah, it's a higher power right here. Psalms 9:16, the Lord, he's known by his judgments. Isaiah 47:11 again in the NLT. So disaster will overtake you, and you won't be able to charm it away. Calamity will fall upon you, and you won't be able to buy your way out. A catastrophe will strike you suddenly, one for which you are not prepared. Now use your magical charms. See, so the Lord is taunting you, man. Now use your magical charms. Use the spells you have worked at all these years. maybe they would do you some good. Maybe they can make someone afraid of you. See? So, you know, and the left hand ain't really dealing with Esau, you know, as heavily as, you know, as it used to. Why? Because ultimately the left hand is controlled by Yahweh, by Shemal Shai. The Lord is done with Esau, you know, or about to be anyway. He's going to allow Esau to, you know, to make his move upon the 2/3 and, you know, do what he needs to do, you know, but the power is being stripped away from Esau right now. And the left hand ain't dealing with them. Okay. The right hand is prevailing. Okay. And as the Lord, you know, has Esau, you know, doing all this, well, best believe, you know, more and more power and strength is going to be given upon the right hand side unto the Lord's servants, man. See, great power is coming our way, man. So let's go here to the chat real quick. So I had typed in here on the chat, because once again, this government shutdown, it served its purpose, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised if I'm just, you know, just throwing out hypotheticals and thinking of hypotheticals, but you know, because once again, it's not official yet that it's reopened. I wouldn't be surprised at the latter end that it'd be like, oh well, you know, Democrats still didn't want to vote in favor, so you know, who knows? At the end of the day, we don't get caught, you know, on these in these enchantments, man, in the left and the right and back and the forth. No, we stay occupied in this more sure word of prophecy. We stay occupied in these scriptures, man. See, because you leave it to Esau, you trying to, you know, always run with his narrative and everything he publishes on the news. You're gonna be confused, man. But I had typed in here. It says, what government positions were purged while the government was shut down? See, that was the whole plan of it all. He knew he was going to open it back up, you know, and we told you he was eventually, you know, because at the end of the day, in order, the government doesn't have to be shut down in order for prophecy to prevail and run its course. All right, it doesn't matter. The Lord decreed exactly what he decreed, and it's going to happen. Okay, but you know, Trump had told he had said on an interview, you know, shortly after the government had first shut down, he said, "Man, they gave this to us on a silver platter," meaning, okay, now we're justified to basically make the government leaner, which is going to lead to, you know, more tyrannical, you know, laws and executive orders being passed. And we're about to read this here on the chat. It says, what government positions were purged while the government was shut down? It says, during the ongoing U.S. federal government shutdown, several significant actions have been taken that amount to purges or layoffs of government positions beyond the typical furloughs. See, because a lot of people will focus upon the furloughs, which that hurt a lot of people, man. You know, even particular believers, but at the end of the day, they're good, you know. But there's always another layer. There's always another level to things, man. There's a lot of permanent positions, a lot of permanent, you know, governmental positions that was purged, you know, for good. So it says here is a summary of what's known so far. Key departments and agencies affected. It says, according to a court filing, the following agencies issued RIF, which means reduction in force, notices to federal employees. Department of Treasury, 1,446. Look, 144. All right, 1,446 employees. Department of Health and Human Services, 1,100 to 1,200 employees. Department of Housing and Urban Development, 442. Department of Education, 466. Department of Commerce, 315. Department of Energy, 187. EPA, all right, and cybersecurity, and part of the Department of Homeland Security. So it says what purge means in this context. These are not just furloughs, temporary unpaid leave, but formal reduction in force notices, meaning job positions are being eliminated or employees permanently laid off. Some and once again, before well, not before, but shortly after Trump had got into office, you know, him and Elon, you know, created this this new government sector called, you know, Doge, you know, Department of Let me see. What does it stand for? Government efficiency, I believe. Yeah, Department of Government Efficiency, which is basically a fancy phrase for saying they're gonna, basically make the government smaller. Get rid of certain positions. And they said it's underneath the guise of money. They need to cut spending, unnecessary spending. But what it is, they eliminated a lot of checks and balances. So it's less hoops and hurdles that they gotta, jump through in order to sign particular, tyrannical laws. Ultimately, the MOTB enforcing that, man. So, Esau, this government shutdown, it served its purpose. It served its purpose. Just because you didn't see it or your life wasn't directly affected, it's about to be. There's a lot of niggas, well, what they gotta do with me? See, and that's Jake's problem, man. But it says some of the impacted positions are in a programmatic or oversight areas. For example, housing inspections, fair housing enforcement, distribution of community development funds. The scale of these layoffs is described as unprecedented for a shutdown. See, these were unprecedented layoffs. It says well over 4,000 employees across multiple agencies. Why this is unusual? Historically, during shutdowns, agencies furlough non-essential staff, but generally restore them once funding resumes. RIF or permanent job cuts are much less common, but Trump didn't give a damn. That's why he says, y'all gave it to me on a silver platter. Some union lawsuits have already moved to block these RIFs, arguing they violate rules when a shutdown, i.e. lapse in appropriations, is not supposed to trigger normal RIF processes. Now I'm gonna skip down here. I had also typed this in. It says, are all these sectors, this is what I asked. I said, are all these sectors or departments that would, Salakia. It says, are these all sectors and departments that would need to be purged in order for a more tyrannical government? It says, that's a very insightful and serious question, and it touches on how control of bureaucratic structures can shift the balance of power in the government. All right. And it says, why purges matter politically. A purge, and mind you, Trump promised a purge, even before he got back in office the second time. It says a purge of government positions, especially during a shutdown, can go far beyond budget trimming. In political science, and see, that goes to show you that this is witchcraft, man. It's all confusion. Like, political sciences, like, damn, like, politics in and of itself, man, is shit's wicked, man. It should be simple. The way the Bible has it set up for us to rule and govern, is very crystal clear. You ain't got to get a goddamn degree in political sciences in order to understand the freaking government, man. But they work in that shroud of confusion and secrecy, and use all these, big words and, just to confuse you, and all these laws and Section 3, Article 5, Clause 8, just, man, just ready for righteousness to reign, bro. It says in political science, when certain bureaucratic oversight or enforcement offices are removed or replaced, it often serves one of three functions in a move toward more centralized or authoritarian power. See, and they're centralizing, more power unto a small group of men. You see, for what purpose? Ultimately, Revelation 13 and 16, all roads eventually lead to the MOTB and eventually World War III. So number one, weakening internal checks on executive power. And, those particular agencies that we just read about, Department of Treasury, Health and Human Services, so on and so forth, education, energy, EPA, like these are all, particular checks and balances that, that they gotta, work through in order to pass particular things. So number one, weakening internal checks on executive power. Number two, consolidating loyalty by removing career officials and replacing them with politically aligned appointees. Number three, controlling information and limiting dissent or whistleblowing within agencies. Now, I'm not going to read all of this. It created a chart, for agencies affected and their roles in democratic checks. And under each category, the first category has the name of the agency, which we already read the names of the agencies, and it gives you their role and the effects that's going to be caused that's going to come from those particular agencies being purged or cut. You see? So let me just read the summary of it all. It says the pattern this suggests. It says if we analyze these collectively, they're not random bureaucracies. So Esau wasn't eliminating these positions just randomly, because Trump just wanted to. Oh, I don't like Department of Energy. No, these these were not random bureaucracies, man. And sectors and departments that that got purged. These are strategic, departments that were purged. Ultimately, so they can set up, what they need and want to set up. Ultimately, what the Lord wants to have set up. So it says they're not random bureaucracies. They are oversight and public accountability hubs. And, tyrants, they want to get rid of being held accountable to people, man. So it says each one checks either corporate power, public health data. Okay, because we already know why they want to get rid of checks and balances within public health data. See, Trump just signed an executive order early this summer to where everybody's public health record is going to be digital, and you already know what's coming next. Your financial status is going to be digital, and we see that paving the way. Hell, the government, they don't even deal with paper checks anymore. They got rid of. Let me type this in. I think it was in September they got rid of it when we were paper. Yeah, September 30th, 2025. The elimination of paper checks by the government is set to occur on September 30th, 2025. See, this transaction will involve the federal government stopping the issuance of paper checks for most federal payments, including Social Security and tax refunds, and will transition to electronic payments. Why? Because this is the infrastructure for Revelation 13, 15, and 16. See? Oh man, I need to hurry up. I got to start getting ready. Salakia. Let's see. So let's go here. Let's read a little bit more. We're almost done. It says, removing or hollowing out these agencies would weaken institutional resistance. And that's basically what they did. They didn't get rid of those positions altogether entirely. They just hollowed it out, got rid of, the resistors, or so-called potential resistors, What you people about to realize, there is no such thing as democracy. All right. Never has and never will be. You were just sold that. That's a part of that wine to make you drunk, to make you feel like you matter. Your voice and your opinion and your vote matters. So it says removing or hollowing out these agencies will weaken institutional resistance to corruption or cronyism. What's cronyism? Let's see. Cronyism. The appointment of friends and associates to positions of authority. Come on, man. that's who's in Trump's cabinet right now. That's how we know it's all BS. You talking about Trump and Elon? They had a disagree. They had a falling out, man. Them niggas, man. No, they best of friends. Sam Altman, all these big tech giants, and they're all on that island together, man. They're all friends. It says the appointment of friends and associates to positions of authority without proper regard to their qualifications. Yeah, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. None of these men are qualified to be in a position of power. Time and chance is happening to them all, ultimately to serve for prophecy to come to pass. So it says removing or hollowing out these agencies will weaken institutional resistance to corruption or cronyism, election interference, data manipulation, and executive overreach. See? Yep. Yeah, let's read this. The water. The brother G.M.S. Tadadot said, yes, the word, this is the Google AI overview. The word cronyism comes from the word crony, while the word crony itself has Greek origins, meaning long-lasting, or cronios. It was adopted in 17th century England as slang for a close friend. Beautiful. Beautiful. So yeah, it says, so that's pretty much all I want to get on that. And it gives you a picture, targeted purges in government departments, and information oversight, regulation, rights, and enforcement. So this government served as this government shutdown. This served its purpose. So but Jake, especially Jake, they don't think beneath all these layers, man. Ultimately, these things have to be discerned through the spirit, through prophecy, and I'm gonna get this real quick. I saw a brother put it up. Sirach 10. Sirach 10 and 1. Brother Atazawam, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. And government comes from it's a compound word. Govern means to control. Ment goes into your mentality, your mental. So mind control. All right. And this government has and is controlling the minds of the people in a very wicked way, through manipulation, through witchcraft, through sorcery, through enchantments, through ignorance, through confusion. See? And this media has a lot to do with that. So-called democracy. But we already know the conclusion of the matter. America is as good as done. The Lord put his name, he put his reputation on the line concerning the destruction of America, man. And he's not a man that he should lie. And we know how serious the Lord guards, and protects his reputation. So yeah, America's done. All right. Sirach 10 and 2, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. Oh yeah, let's get this at the water, bro. He already knew. Brother GMS Tazadat put up Ecclesiastes 5 and 8 in the NLT. Don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful. And who's the poor? Us Israelites, man. And you can't be surprised at seeing, you can't be surprised at seeing, the poor being oppressed by the powerful, And that big beautiful bill that was passed, earlier this year, I believe it was in July or August, man. And that's ultimately where the so-called contention comes from. A major hub of that contention comes from is really like, once again, these health care subsidies, and also, how that big beautiful bill is giving major tax breaks to the rich and wealthy elite class, or the higher echelons, if you will, to the rich. And the poor is just gonna get screwed over, man. But that's the premise of Esau's kingdom, is oppressing the poor. Why? Because it's just simply in the power of his hands to do so. Micah 2. So this is why we need salvation. We need Yahweh Shai, man. Let's get this in Psalm 72. This is a psalm of David written for Solomon. Okay, but Solomon didn't fulfill this. But the greater Solomon, which is Yahweh Shai, he's going to come back and fulfill this. Look at the title, The Reign of the Righteous King. Verse 1, a psalm for Solomon. Give the king thy judgments, O power, and thy righteousness unto the king's son. He shall judge thy people with righteousness and thy poor with judgment. The mountains shall bring peace to the people, and the little hills by righteousness. He shall judge the poor of the people. He shall save the children of the needy and break in pieces the oppressor. That's what Yahweh Shai is coming to do, man. He's going to break in pieces the oppressor and save the poor of his people, starting with the elect. So let's go back here to Ecclesiastes 5 and 8 NLT. I got to hurry up, Salakia. Don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land. Why? Because the wicked is in rulership. Job 9:24. Would you expect a righteous rulership from Esau? Hell no, man. For every official, all right, your government, your governors, your mayors, your presidents, your senators, the members of the House of Representatives, the judges, for every official is under orders from higher up. See, so Trump, he's under orders from higher up. There's somebody that cuts Trump's check. So Trump, he don't rule shit. You know, it's ultimately the elites. And the elites, they have to give answers to higher up, man. You see? All right, the Most High. And there's nobody higher than the Most High, Yahweh. See, so this is Yahweh's program, man. And he's working through the left and he's working through the right. Scriptures tells you that. What was that? Job 23. Job 23 and 9. Let's start at verse 8. Behold, I go forward, but he is not there. Yeah, because scripture says, for surely thou art a power that hidest thyself in the earth. But the Lord is everywhere, though. He's omnipresent. I mean, he's everywhere at the same time. All right, but you have to have the spirit to discern him. It says, behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. On the left hand, where he doth work, but I cannot behold him. He hideth himself on the right hand, that I cannot see him. See, so the Lord works on both sides, the left hand and the right hand. See, so Esau don't run shit. Okay, this is Yahweh by Shemel Shai's program. So let's finish this. Ecclesiastes 5 and 8 NLT. If you see a poor person, don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land. For every official is under orders from higher up, and matters of justice get lost in red tape and bureaucracy. See? So yeah, man, we're gonna leave it right there. You know, Lord's willing. All right, you occupant all quath were edified, but once again, as the title of the lesson reads, Esau's all over the place. All right, with these $2,000 stimulus checks and the government, all right, so-called, you know, reopening back up. All right, well, we're sure about everything, you know, as it relates to prophecy coming to fulfillment. You know, that's what's going to happen, man. So yeah, we're gonna leave it right there. You know, Lord's willing. All right, you occupant all quath were edified. Till next time, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory into my power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Hakodash. I want to give double honor to my beloved apostle. That was a great millstone, the waffle up a ball. Shalom.